Hi, this is Ben Laing. Thanks for joining us for episode
32.
of Ben's Business Podcast. Every Wednesday at 2 p.m. GMT UK time, I will be jumping on Facebook Live with a guest or on my own to answer your questions about growing your business, digital marketing, social media, and search engine optimization.
Why we buy and the psychology of selling. This is actually a follow-up from after reading Brian Tracy's book, The Psychology of Selling, which I found to be a great book related to what I do on day to day, which is running a business. We make sales. We have to be making sales every day for our business, or our business is either growing or it's dying. So the psychology of selling is very important, so we understand why people buy and how to adapt our presentations or when we meet people or do videos, and how we can adapt our words to focus on the words that the prospects are actually looking for to make to go ahead with our service. The Psychology of Selling was written by Brian Tracy. He's wrote the Eat That Frog book as well. He's wrote probably the most books of any author I know of, and his audiobooks are great. He reads them all as the narrator, so highly recommend this book. But here's some takeaways I got from it and some personal experiences that I've got from selling in general, people I've interviewed, and just general 10 years of doing business. So when you're talking about your products or services or your business, what you need to do is talk about your products or service in terms of who you're talking to, and focus on what they want rather than the product and service that you're selling. So focus on the benefits for them, and that can only be done by really understanding who you're selling to first. So you do need to understand your market, who you're selling to, and especially if you're going to meet someone face to face and have a meeting or do a presentation, there's a lot of work to be done beforehand. But if we're doing signage, for example, I seen a sign out on the road the other day. I'd done a quick Instagram video about this. It was, I think, AB Autos, and it was a garage, a car garage, and they had under like their subheading is repairs and sales. And as I mentioned, that every business does sales, so that's almost a useless word in that sign, and it was a waste of the space. That they could have actually said repairs and MOTs, or repairs and service. Service is a much more beneficial word to the customer, and it is related to what they're doing and beneficial. So watch out for the words that you're using, and make sure you're using beneficial words to them, not about your products and services, what you think they should want. We need to do a bit of research on that. So that's the next part, is that 90% of the prospect's decisions to buy is based on just about 10% of the features and benefits that we talk about. So if you've got a presentation, you've got a list of maybe 20 products, features and benefits, there's probably just 10% of that the prospect that you're talking to or watching your video or wherever they're coming into, we're talking in terms of when we're face to face with the customer, one to one. You just have to kind of find out that 10%, that one feature and benefit that they want. And Brian Tracy called this the hot button. And the hot button is something, once you find that, you'll be able to tell from body language or response when you bring up that feature and benefit. They might ask more questions about it. They might smile. Their eyes may light up. And this is much easier one-to-one when you can find out that hot button. And this is a wee bit more difficult and when you're doing sort of marketing, when you're doing like a sort of broad range of not fully understanding that and having that one-to-one engagement or a dialogue where you can ask questions and get answers and can adapt to how the meeting's going. So that 10%, just make sure that you're not talking, once you figure that hot button out, make sure that you're not talking about the other 90%, because that can actually hurt your chances of making the sale. So ask lots of questions, be a sort of detective and figure out what they're looking for. I've actually got a really good question like some examples of questions you could be asking. Something like, so if you're speaking to them, you could ask them, if you could wave a magic wand and have the perfect situation in this area, how would it be different from what you're doing currently? So he's basically asking what's the solution, but they're asking in a way that will relate to them, and it'll bring out some thoughtful ideas in that way. Another question is, what would you have to be convinced to go ahead with our product or any of our products? And these questions are they help the customer think of more ways and give you the answer that you need to be able to help them on that journey towards closing the sale and giving them the service that they actually need. And then we can actually get focused on that hot button and keep touching on that hot button until they're happy to go ahead and make the sale. Because what we don't want to be doing is talking about things that they're not interested in. So it's discovering that at the beginning of the meeting or the beginning of the relationship is really just becoming friends, getting in that friend zone with the person, finding out about their personal life before their business life, and then finding out about the business and the problems and what they're actually seeking from you or your similar products and services to what you offer. So get there first, touch on the hot button, ask lots of questions. Then the next part is to put this all into action. And if you're not one-to-one, if you're doing marketing, to do that research to get your sort of buyer persona, your customer avatar, as we talk about, which is a clever way of saying your ideal perfect person that you want to make a sale to with your products and services, the product and services that are ideal to people out there. These questions help. So my sort of exercise to you, which was an exercise Brian Tracy gave me that worked really well, it's actually a really good sales and customer service exercise as well. So get on the phone to at least 10 customers. Try this today. It's something you can do right now if you've got a phone and some connection. So call 10 customers. Just ask them, if you have 10 customers, if you've only got 3, call 3 customers. Just ask them how you can help, how everything's going with the product. You're not trying to make a sale, you're just making sure if you've just recently made a sale, you're just doing a follow-up courtesy call. So that's the helpful part about this call when you go out and just go out your way to make a call to them, your customers. And my clients, I've done it for I've always kind of followed that strategy of following and making sure my customers are happy, getting on the phone to them and speaking to one customer at least every day. And that's a great strategy in itself. But the important part about this exercise is that you want to ask them a question that's very important to doing this market research for improving your presentation. When you're doing a presentation to maybe a whole room, you're trying to judge the audience. What you can do is judge the audience like before, so you're preparing yourself for these presentations you're doing and making sure you've got the right information. And when you're coming up to meet this customer, you've gathered all that information up front. You can present the right features and benefits that the average person want. And this is like why people buy. So one of the questions is to tell me exactly why you decided to buy from us. And that is over competition, because there was other people who were offering the products and services that you've bought from us. So why did you buy it from us? And that's the question you want to ask. I'll repeat that. Tell me exactly why you decided to buy from us. That's the clear question you need to ask on to those 10 customers that you call. And that the answers to them is your research. And that the words that they use, the exact words that they use in quotes, bring them into your presentation when you're speaking to them one-to-one. And this will massively help your way of speaking in their language and not in their lingo and your jargon. Make sure you're using their words, and that will help you talk in their language and persuade them into a sale, because you're actually talking to the benefits, to the problems that they have and the solutions that they actually want. Customer service. So the customer service sales calls is again a great way to just make extra sales, because you're actually asking them if you can help them with anything. And off the back of that, I've found that I've made extra sales just by making these follow-up courtesy calls that have no pushy sales at all attached to them. Other parts or examples from this is I've got a couple of notes here that I figured out a very interesting discovery when I made these calls today just to do some research for this video. It's actually my character, my attitude that was one of the key reasons why people buy from me. So I'm just going to close up here, and I would really appreciate if you could do this exercise and give me some feedback on how that went for you. Thanks for watching. This is Ben's Business Podcast, episode number 32.